Okay, so this video is just to follow up kind of to the S code and D code one. It's that same boiler. So I was called here for no hot water. There have been multiple visits by previous engineers. No one could nail it down basically to what was causing it. So when I arrived, the boiler had too high a pressure in it. So checking the S code, you can see there it's S41, and you see here now just shows the pressures at 3.4 bar, so it's leaking out the PRV. It's constantly filling the boiler. So first thing I do is drain the boiler, get the pressure down low enough, which I'll show you here. I'll reset and you'll see the pressure will flick up 1.6 bar. Hold that minus button again and show you that S41 is now clear. And the way I do this, so it's S30, S20, they're normal operating S codes. I've got a hot tap open in the bathroom already, and what I've done with this boiler is I've used a filling loop, because if you use the filling loop on a Valent or Glowworm, it turns the hot water on and off as well. So I used the filling loop to turn the water on and off. It takes some time here, but it will lock out. Well, it won't lock out, it will go into S53, which I think you've seen before, which is basically the boiler saying I'm too hot. The temperature difference between the flow and return is too great, therefore I'm going to go into limp home mode, which is basically low fire for 2 minutes before I'm going to ramp up. So right now S14 means it's running for hot water, and any second now, well, it might take a few seconds, it's going to jump into S53. So with the S53 fault code, that's some form of restriction, so it could be anything from plate heat exchanger, main heat exchanger, the canoe filter on these boilers, there you go, S53, the pump, the diverter valve, anything that could get blocked or restricted or not function properly could cause this. So I'm going to show you how I go about diagnosing this now. S98 and S97, which we'll see here, are the first status codes you see after you've reset the boiler. So if you ever reset one of these boilers and run a hot tap, the boiler will take sometimes quite a long time to fire. So I've edited over 25 seconds of S98 out of this video, just to show you how long it can take. But basically if you added like 25 seconds to that there, so it's about 40 seconds of it not working. So the boiler's there now running for hot water, and I'm going to feel the flow there with my hand to make sure that flow is getting red hot and we haven't got some other issue like a blocked main heat exchanger, i.e. the flame path on the main heat exchanger, so it's not actually creating that much heat. But the flow there was nice and hot. I'm checking the return to see if that's hot or cold. If that was freezing cold but the flow's red hot, you've got a blockage in that plate. Now I'm feeling the plate. If the plate was red hot, and if everything was red hot in there, then it's not, the mains water isn't absorbing any heat from that plate heat exchanger, which would be scale more than likely. Not always, but sometimes it can be sludge. So if you're uncomfortable putting your hands in a working boiler like that to check things, then don't, quite simply. Just leave it alone. So as you see, it's gone into limp mode. So now I'm pretty confident I've got a blockage. It's probably on the canoe filter or the plate heat exchanger, so I'm going to check that now. Right, so this nut here is just the end of the filling loop. I undo that when I'm draining because I think this is why it's over pressurizing. So I just leave that hose dangling and just keep an eye on, see if that's dripping. That way I know the other end of the valve's letting by. While it's drained, I obviously pump up the vessel because that's gone flat because it's been over pressurized the whole time. So I overfilled it a little bit. Now I'm just letting some of the excess air out. So the canoe filter on these is the same place as on a Valent, which is that hydro block there where that brass fitting goes in, and obviously the plate heat exchanger is the plate heat exchanger. Okay, so get the plate out first. Now I'm going to try and gain access to the canoe filter. The plate looked clean and the back where the plate went onto looks relatively clean. So now it's time to remove that water pressure sensor. It's a good way of visually sometimes checking the canoe filter, which lies in there behind it. But I'm going to remove this nut and that brass piece to visually check inside. So there it is out. I'll get a bit of a surprise here. So this is how I check this particular boiler, which is very awkward. I used my phone and just videoed it, and when I got in here I could see, after I could obviously recap on the video, I could see that someone had already removed that filter. So I'm guessing that's why it fixed it, because this boiler had been fixed temporarily for about a month and then it had come back. So I got that out, checked that. Now, previously on an F75 video, people complained they didn't see that sensor come in and out, and there it is. There's the sensor. Sorry about this footage, it is really bad. There's the sensor going back in, upside down, because the camera's upside down. Put the clip in. Now, just so you know, on these, if you're working on the 837, Valent 837, you can't put this clip in from the top because the plate heat exchanger is that big, it overhangs this. So when you're taking it out, use some long nose pliers and just rip the old one out, the clip that is, and then in your new pack you get a new clip, you can just put it in from underneath. Saves you having to take the plate heat exchanger off, and it's how the one in my house is. You can see it's quite grubby, this boiler. So while I've got it all drained as well, I'll just whip the pump head off, have a look in there for any debris. You can see there's a bit in there. There's only a couple of bits in there. I've had these before where there's loads of debris in them, and you just give that a clean out and clean the back of the pump housing, and boilers are good as gold again. So it's always worth a check. I mean, I don't always check it, but there's been so many visits here, I'd assume that it's something odd as opposed to being something obvious. Now this plate looks really clean. You'll see when I check the other holes here in a sec, there's a tiny little bit of debris you can see right in the bottom of it. Not this hole here, this next one. So this hole here on the left, can you see that tiny bit of debris at the bottom there? Now that is a good indication to me that that plate's going to have a lot of that in. This is all the stuff I removed to check. I couldn't find anything obvious, so I descaled the plate heat exchanger, basically, and that fixed it. So here's the PRV, I removed that, and if you can see, I just cleaned the edge where the rubber seats on that. So all I ever do is give that a clean. I clean the rubber, and I just put a bit of grease on the rubber. Not LSX grease, okay? You can see how grubby all of that is. That's been leaking for a long time. And that is just some grease. And that does the job on, I would say, on 9 out of 10 PRVs, that does the job. So this is the boiler all back together now, and it is working, and you see that expansion vessel pressure is now up at over 1.5 bar. It's about 1.75 bar, and that's because this boiler is on and running now. So the water within the system has expanded slightly, and it's pressing against that. So look, this boiler is now at 2.2 bar. I've had no issues. Right, obviously on Glowworm you do the high and the low. So I've done the high, this is the low. I'll do the high now, you see it showing high. I'll do the high now, you see the cases on that now as well. So it's all good, cases on, got the flue screws, do all the visuals. F4, that's the safety device check. So the gas is off underneath here. There you go, gas is off. So it's just showing I do all the safety checks right at the end, just before I leave. This boiler was fixed, and the problem was actually the plate heat exchanger was blocked. And obviously the tiny little bits of debris in the pump, they had completely filled that plate heat exchanger. When I put the descaling chemicals in there, there was actually I was shocked at how much bubbling there was. So it was just the plate.